Hi, my name is Sorin Grama, and my talk is about embracing failure and recognizing the hidden power in it. So it was the summer of 2007. I was just finishing a graduate degree at MIT, and the career counselor was after me to sign up for interviews for a job. And I was putting her off, and I had some other ideas. The year before that, while I was in school, I had participated in the business plan competitions, and I was part of a team that had come up with some idea for a solar concentrator, very much like this, that could be used in developing countries to generate hot water and electricity. And I had developed a business plan, I had written the business plan, we did the market research with the thought of using this in India. Someone in our team said, why don't we use this in India? So we wrote all that business plan, but none of us had actually been in India at this point. Neither have I. I'm not Indian, I grew up in Romania, my family moved to the US when I was young, but I thought this was kind of an interesting thing that we can try. So at the end of when I graduated, I decided that let's see if we can give this a try. During the business plan competition, we actually won some money. We won $10,000, which was a lot of money for us back then. So we took that money and I went to India. I traveled around the world for a while, and then I met in India with one of my teammates, and this teammate turned out to be my business partner in the future, and we went all over the place looking for people that would want to talk to us about this solar concentrator. Well, this was a classic case of a solution looking for a problem. As you can imagine, there were not a lot of takers out there. What we did discover in the end was that there were a lot of problems looking for solutions. And one of those problems was posed to us pretty early. It has to do with the dairy industry in India. Let me give you a few facts. In India, milk is collected from small individual farmers scattered all over the countryside. It's not like here in the United States where you have one large farm with 200, 500 cows. It's the opposite. You have one farmer with 1 or 2 cows, and you have hundreds of these farmers all over the place. So if you're a dairy processor and you try to collect this milk, you have to go touch all these people and collect that milk, small amounts, 5, 10 liters of milk from all these villages, and bring it to a center, collection center, take it from there, quickly rush it to a chilling center or a processing center before it spoils. Milk, as you know, is a highly perishable commodity. It takes about 5 hours before it spoils, so you have to do this very, very quickly. Now, a lot of these there's a very simple solution to all this. If you can refrigerate the milk right there at the source, you can eliminate all these problems. You can keep the milk fresh. You don't have to go pick it up so quickly. You can pick it up once a day instead of twice a day. And you can go farther into the countryside to get the milk that you want. So this was the 3 basic problems that were posed to us by the dairies. They said, look, I can't get enough milk. I can only have a 40-kilometer radius to pick up my milk. A lot of milk comes back spoiled, and I have to go twice a day to pick it up, which is a lot of transportation cost. Twice a day because there's 2 milkings in a day, morning and evening milking for each for cows. So, if there's refrigeration, why isn't it used? Well, there's a deeper problem in India, an underlying problem there that maybe not many of you know about. But in rural India, electricity is not available 24 hours a day. If they have 15 hours a day, they're lucky. In many cases, it's 8, 6 hours a day, sometimes even no power. But many villages do have some power. It's just not 24 hours a day, and especially it's not available when you have to chill the milk, which is morning at 6 o'clock and evening at 6 o'clock. So the only solution in that case would be you put up a diesel generator with a standard milk refrigeration system. And that's not a great solution at all. It doubles the capital cost, the operating cost, because diesel is very expensive, not to mention the noise pollution and all this other stuff, the bad stuff that goes with it. So they challenged us to find a better solution. So, we said, well, let's try to find a few things. We actually started the company that summer after we saw this problem to try to find this specific solution to this specific problem. And given my experience with solar power, I actually had written a whole thesis on solar power dynamics when I was in school, and I had quite a bit of experience in solar power. I said, that sounds like an easy way or one way to solve this unreliable electricity problem. We just put up some solar PV panels, we run a compressor, and problem solved. Well, there's one other thing intermediate that has to happen. If you think about solar power, you got 6 a.m. until 6 p.m., the cycle of solar, but the milking happens at 6 a.m. and at 6 p.m. You don't actually have solar power at that time. So pretty quickly you realize you have to use some kind of energy storage. You want to run the compressor during the day with solar power, store that energy, and then you have it available in the evening or in the morning when you need to chill the milk. So we actually went ahead and developed an energy storage device with it. So this went on for about 3 years. This is one of our installations in 2010. I kept going back and forth to India, trying different prototypes, we'd come back to the States, we'd work in the lab, and then go back to India for 3 months. And like that, many failures, none of them worked. But from each one of them, we learned something. Finally, in 2011, I think the mic went out. In 2011, we finally figured out a design that seemed to work. Here it is. We use solar PV, about 2 kilowatts of solar PV, running a compressor, which you see here in white, and then right behind that was the thermal battery, the battery which I'll explain a bit more later. It was a very big battery, but it chilled 500 liters of milk. It worked well, and more importantly, we actually had a customer that paid us for this system, and they gave us assistance to install it and test it someplace in South India. And this was spring of 2011. I remember exactly that day when we finished the installation, and we're so excited to show it to our customer, the managing director of one of these largest dairies in India, and he came in, looked at it and said, this is not going to work. It's way too expensive, it's way too big, and you can only cool 500 liters of milk. I'm sorry, but I cannot put these in hundreds of my villages where I'm collecting my milk. And that was a very dejecting moment for us. We had worked so many years to realize that we finally hit a wall. Solar power was not going to work, and I had seemed like all these years of development had gone down the road. In fact, I remember down the drain. I remember that night we're sitting at the hotel where we're staying, and I was with my business partner. And we're just sitting there, I was like, what do we do now? We're smoking a cigarette, and I don't smoke. I don't condone it, but it was one of those moments, right? So what to do now? And we're running out of money at this point, so we had to lay off our engineers. And I spent the next couple months traveling and soul searching what to do. Like, do I really want to be involved with this? I mean, it seems like solar power, which I was very passionate about, is not going to work. What do we do from here? So it was a very tough moment for us. Quickly, soon after that, one of my team members came to me and said, what if we just throw out the solar power, take out the energy storage, and we'll just build a very simple milk chiller that we can plug into the grid, and whatever 8-10 hours of electricity they have, we'll figure out a way to run it, and it will work. So I said, with the little money that we had left, I let him pursue that idea. But pretty soon he came back to me a couple months later, actually. He said, well, but we're still running into that problem of not having power when we need it. And at that moment, I realized that we had actually thrown out the baby with the bathwater. We discarded the energy storage when we actually really needed that. And out of these ashes of our system, after we eliminated the solar power, what rose out of that was this energy storage device, which was the actual solution to our problem. If you can store the electricity, if you can store the energy, you can chill the milk. You can just use whatever electricity they had. 8 to 10 hours was enough. It doesn't have to be contiguous. It doesn't have to be all during the day or night. 1 hour here, 1 hour there. We can harvest that energy, store it into our battery, and we can make that work. So that was the moment we realized that we actually had developed something, but we didn't see it until we eliminated the thing that was blinding us, which was this solar power idea that we pursued for so long. So we got re-energized very quickly. Luckily, around the same time, National Science Foundation gave us an SBIR grant. Where's Pravina and all these guys? They gave us a phase 1 SBIR grant to pursue this idea of the thermal battery. Real brief, what the battery is about. It's not an electrical battery. It's a thermal battery that stores energy in form of thermal energy. We basically make ice, right? So we freeze the material. The process of freezing stores the energy. When you melt that material, you release the energy. And for a refrigeration application like this, it's much more efficient than running an electrical battery. Now, this has been done for hundreds of years, so it's nothing new, but the way we packaged that material, the way we melted it, the more efficient, maybe more compact, all that, it was a source of our patent and something that was actually working and very practical and very low cost for these kinds of applications. So A year later, in 2012, we went back to India with this prototype. You can see in the background the thermal battery. This was still a fairly big device. We made it much smaller after that. But this was one of our first installations, and it really worked. It was in a village that was getting somewhere 8 to 10 hours a day of electricity, and it really whatever random electricity they had, the battery was there to chill the milk when they needed to chill it. And it was beautiful, and based on this, we started to receive a lot of inquiries. So this was one dairy that purchased, then another one, and then another one. And so pretty quickly it became very popular, and we started to think about mass production. So in 2012, I actually moved to India permanently to try to kickstart our manufacturing and build up the team over there. So that was one of the, to me, the fact that people are using my stuff, the stuff that I literally dream up and built with my own hands. In fact, some of these things that we did here, you see, these are all stuff that I hand built, electronics and everything. It gives me great satisfaction to see that. But there's a bigger picture here, and I wanted to show you some numbers. In India, $10 billion worth of fresh produce goes to waste every year because of a lack of refrigeration. Now, that's not just dairy, but it's also fresh produce. So it's a very big market opportunity. A lot of that is because 400 million people don't have access to reliable electricity. And we take that for granted here in the United States, but it's nothing like that in India. And 250 million liters of milk are produced every day in India. India is the largest producer and consumer of milk in the world. Milk is their lifeblood. They use it for everything in their culture, for foods, for those famous sweets, even for religious rituals. So if we can save even 1% of that milk from spoilage, we've made a big impact. And this is something that really drives me, gets me out of bed every day, and I'm very happy to be here to talk about it. Thank you so much. Oh. One last thing, when I was telling my career counselor that I'm coming back here to DC to do this presentation, she said, "I'm so glad you didn't listen to my advice."